Welcome to another session in Android. In this today's session, we are going to discuss about how to handle button click. We are going to discuss handling some events. This is the topic today. The name of the topic is event handling. We are going to discuss how to handle the button click. Handle the button click. We can also call it as event handling. So today's topic is the events. You might have heard about this word events in core Java, specifically when you worked with AWT and applet something. You may have heard about some events: mouse event, window event, key event, item event. So many events are there. So what is event actually, and what is event handling? Event handling is nothing but handling some actions. User is going to perform some actions. User is going to perform some interaction with the UI. Maybe user is going to click on some buttons. User is going to select some checkbox. User is going to check some checkboxes. He is going to turn on the toggle button. Okay, he is going to click some list or select some list items. He is going to long press some UI elements. These are the events. These are the events which we want to handle. These are the actions we want to handle. We want something to do when the button is clicked. We want something to do when the radio button is checked. We want something to do when user long presses the UI element. These things we want to do here. So before that, we will discuss what is event. One example here you can just consider. Suppose this is my mobile. This is one mobile. This mobile is a source of one event. My mobile is actually one source of the event. My mobile is going to create some events. So here I can call something as source of event. This is the source of event. And this mobile is going to raise some events. How this mobile raises the event? Sometimes the mobile rings. Okay, sometimes my mobile rings. Sometimes my mobile vibrates. Sometimes my mobile gives some beeps. Okay, when some message comes, it gives me some beep. Sometimes it plays some alarm sound. Okay, it plays some alarm sound. So here, through some events actually, it notifies me that something is happened or something is going to be happened. So here we will see this example. I want to change the font size here. Now what type of events the mobile gives us, or what type of events the mobile raises, that I want to see here. Here the mobile sometimes raises the ring event. So the mobile raises event. These are the events. So what are the events? Ringing is the event. Sometimes it vibrates. Vibrating is an event. Sometimes it creates some beep. Beep is also event. Like that, it creates so many events. So mobile raises or generates events. And these are the events. Ringing is one event. Vibrating is one event. Beeping is one event. Now here, if my mobile is ringing, what will happen? How could I know that my mobile is ringing? Okay, I can know about my mobile is ringing through my ears. So I can say ear is a listener. There should be some listener who should listen these events. See here, there should be some listeners who should listen some events. And who are the listeners for me? Here my ears are listeners. Okay, sometimes my body can listen that something is vibrating. Okay, so there could be different listeners who can listen those events. Okay, so I must say here, events are listened by, events are listened by listeners. Events are listened by listeners. Now what happens when I listen the event? What happens when I listen the event? I take the action. And how I take the action? Basically, I pick up my phone and I answer it. Okay, when my mobile rings, I pick up my phone and I answer it. And how do I pick up my phone? Actually, I use some handlers. There are some handlers. Right now in this example, my hands are handlers. Okay, I will pick up the phone and I will answer it. Either I will reject the call or I will just answer the call and I will talk to the person. I will take some action. Okay, consider here one more example. Suppose here there is one person. Here there is one person. And this person presses the doorbell. This person presses the doorbell. Now pressing the doorbell is one event or not? Pressing the doorbell is one event. Pressing the doorbell. There is one doorbell. Doorbell is the source of event. Doorbell is the source of event. Someone presses the doorbell. Okay. And when someone presses the doorbell, okay, pressing is the event. Which event has occurred? Press event has occurred. Press event. Now basically when doorbell rings, many people inside the home will listen it. Okay, there are 2-3 persons inside the home, they will listen it. But after they listen it, only one person, see here, these events are listened by many listeners. There are so many persons in the home or not? So many persons. Okay, they will listen it. This is the listener. But only one person will go and open the door. So opening the door means handling it. Here we will open the door. What we will do? Here we will open the door. Okay, here there are so many persons, so many people. Okay, so many people or so many members in the home, they will listen. But only one guy will open the door. So these are some kind of examples. In our case, here we are interested to handle some event. What it means? There is one button we have created. In our activity, we want to create one button. This is the button. And this button is nothing but the source of event. And what we are going to do on this button? We are going to click on this button. This click is one event. We are going to click on this button. This click is one event. And there should be some listener. Now see here, there are 3 mobiles. If my mobile rings, then only I can listen it. Means I will pick up my phone. Because my ears are registered to this mobile. So here there should be some listener who should be registered or who is registered with this button. So whenever we click on this button, okay, some listeners will listen it. The Android operating system will handle the event and the Android operating system will inform that the button is clicked. It will inform that the button is clicked to all the listeners, but only that listener which is registered with this button will listen it, and it will call the appropriate method. And the method is nothing but the handler. So here, which event is clicked? On click event is clicked. On click listener. Okay, this is the on click listener. This is the name of the listener. On click listener. And this on click listener calls one method, and the method is the on click method. This is the method name. So here events are objects. Okay, this event is also one object. This event source is also object. This event source is also one object. This button is one object or not? This button is also one object. This event is also one object. Okay. This listeners are interfaces. And handler means the methods. Okay, for each listener there are some methods which are particularly called, to decide what should happen when the particular event has occurred. if a click event has occurred, do this. If XYZ event has occurred, do this. Something like this, the event handling mechanism is working. Now there are 2-3 terms we have to discuss first. What is event listener, what is event, and what is the callback method. Okay, these things we want to discuss first, and after that we will go for some practical example how to handle the button click. There are 5 ways to handle the button click. These 5 ways we are going to discuss today, and we will see which is the best way or which is the recommended way, that also we will see. What are the differences between these 5 methods, how to handle a button click, that also we want to discuss today. So here we have some event. So event is nothing but some action, and event handling means handling the action, to decide what to do when some actions are taken. We are going to provide some UI elements like button. Button is a clickable UI element, and when I click on a button, something should happen. And what should happen, that depends on the requirement of the application. Sometimes you want to get the data from another UI element. Sometimes you want to perform some database operation. Sometimes you want to do some task, maybe some calculation. Anything you can perform in that method. So here with this example we are coming to know what is event, what is event source, what are the listeners, and what are the handlers. In short, I must say, listeners are interfaces, handlers are the methods which are called, and events are the actions, okay, which are occurred on a particular object or on a particular UI element. So here events in Android can take a variety of different forms and are generally generated, usually generations of an external action. The most common form of event actually for devices such as tablet and smartphone involve some form of interaction with the touchscreen. Okay, maybe clicking on a button, okay, maybe selecting some checkbox, selecting some radio button, and so on. And here there is one class in Android called as a view class, from which all the user interface components are derived. We have discussed some basic UI, some basic views like text view, edit text, radio button, combo box. So all of these UI components, all of these user interface components are derived from the view class. View is the class at the top of the hierarchy, and it also contains a range of event listeners. The view class also contains the range of event listener, and these listeners are nothing but these are interfaces, and each of the interface contains an abstract declaration for the callback method. That means in every interface, in every listener interface, there are some methods which are defined, and these methods we have to override to decide what should happen when a particular event has occurred. So this is the thing we have to do in the event handling. In order to able to respond to an event of a particular type, we must register the appropriate event listener and implement the corresponding callback method. Means 2 steps are there. Number 1, we have to register appropriate event listener, and second, we have to implement or override the callback method. For example, in this case here you can see we have to register the on-click listener. We have to register the on-click listener using a method set on-click listener method. What is the method? We will see later. How to register, that also we will see. But if we are using some button, we have to register this button. We have to register this button to on-click listener, and this method or this interface has one method. The method name is the on-click method. We have to override this on-click method. So what is the first step? First step is to register the appropriate event listener, and second thing, implement the corresponding callback method. What is the callback method? So many callback methods are there. On click, okay, on item click, so many methods are there. For example, if a button is to respond to a click event, if you want a button to respond to a click event, it must register the on click listener. First thing, it must register the on click listener, okay, using the method called as set on click listener. We will discuss this method. And second thing, it should implement the corresponding on click callback method. For example, suppose here I want to write the sample code. Here I am creating one class, public class main activity. that extends activity class. In activity class we know that there is one lifecycle method. The lifecycle method is the public void on create method having one bundle class argument, that we know that already. Now this is our class. Now here suppose we have created one button. This is the button 1. This is the button 1. First thing we have to register this button to listen the click event. How to register? There is one statement we have to write here. Here in on create method I will write button 1 dot set on click listener. This is the method. This method is used to register. It is used to register the event listener. This is used to register the event listener. But first we have to create this button. Actually only instance variable is created. Here anyhow we have to create the button. We have to create the button. How to create the button we will see later. Okay, something here we have to write. Button 1 is equal to new button for this. Means using Java also we can create the button, and using the XML also we can create the button. Okay, we can bring the XML button. We can bring the XML button in Java also. We have to bring the XML into the Java. How to bring it we will see later. And here the button should be registered to the click listener using this method set on click listener. And here we have to pass one argument. Here we have to pass one argument of a class which implements the interface. I can write here one step, implements on click listener. Implements on click listener. This class, main activity class, which is extending the activity, also implements the on click listener. And this is interface. This interface provides one abstract method. The method is the on click method, and we have to override this method here. Override the on click method. Override the on click method. How to override? We have to write here public void on click method. This on click method has one argument of type view, and here we have to write the code. We have to write the code to execute when the button is clicked. When the button is clicked, this thing we have to perform here. Now one point remaining, we are registering this button. And while registering this button with set on click listener, who should listen? Who should respond? This class should respond actually. And this class is already implementing the on click listener. So we have to provide the reference of this class to this method. So here writing this. This means the instance of this class. Okay, which is listening, which is going to respond to the event. And whenever we click onto this button, this class which is implementing this method will be called. And inside this class we provide some code to execute when the button is clicked. And this is the way we want to handle the button event. Now here, before we go for the first practical example, we will see some basic points, some following concepts, some simple concepts. Number one is the event listener. Okay, this is one listener. On click listener is a one listener. Like that there are so many listeners. What are the listeners? We will see one by one. What is listener actually? Listener is nothing but it is an interface in the view class. Okay, all the listeners are defined in the view class, which contains some callback methods. Each listener contains its callback methods. For example, what is the callback method for this interface? The callback method for this interface is on click. We have to override this on click method. So each listener is an interface, and every interface has some callback methods, and these methods will be called by the Android framework when the view to which the listener is registered is triggered by the user interaction, maybe by clicking the button, selecting the item, whatever. What are the listener registration? What are the listener registration? The registration is the process by which an event handler gets registered with the event listener, so that the handler is called. Handler means the method is called when the listener fires the event. And what is event handler? Handler is nothing but the method. Whenever an event happened, we have to first register it, and whenever that event happened, whatever we have registered, the handler method will be called. The event listener will call the handler, means the method, which is the method that actually handles that event. These are some handlers: on click, on long click, on focus change, on key, on touch, on create context menu. These are the methods. These are the handlers which are called when some event has occurred, when something is changed. So, what is event listener register? Registration means the process by which the event handler gets registered. And which method we have to use? We have to use the set on click listener. In this case, I am handling one click event, and for the click event we have to use the set on click method, set on click listener method. Now we are going to have some summary here. First, we are going to create one button, and we are tell the Android that we are interested in handling the button. We are going to tell the Android that we are interested in handling the button. Now there are few steps we have to understand. There are few steps I think you should note down here. Okay, what is the step number 1? The step number 1 is the tell Android that you are interested in listening to a click. You are interested in listening to a button click. That means what? We have to use any of the method that I am going to tell you. There are 5 methods of handling the click. Okay, I am going to use the first method. What is the first method? The first method is the public class main activity. Public class main activity extends activity implements on click listener. Why I am writing here on click listener? Because we are telling the Android that we are interested in handling or listening to a button. Okay, I am telling this guy is interested to listen the click listener, to listen the on click listener. So here I am implementing the interface on click listener. What is the second step? Second step is the bring your XML button inside the Java. Bring your XML button inside the Java. How to bring the XML button inside the Java? That also we will see. See, whenever we write the main.xml, in main.xml we create one button. There should be some width here we have to specify. There should be some height we have to specify here. And there should be one property we have to use, Android:ID. And Android:ID is equal to @ID / here we have to write some button for it, button 1. Okay, there should be some text also we can specify here. There should be text also we can specify here, whatever text, click, show, whatever. And the important attribute we have to specify, this is the important attribute, Android:ID is equal to @ID / button 1. This is the XML button. What do we write in XML? This thing we write in XML. Now how to bring the XML button into Java? See here, this is the main activity.java file. This one is the main activity.java file. In this main activity.java file, we have to write, first we have to create one instance, button btn show. This is the name of the button. Here there will be some method, public void on create method, which is the first lifecycle method. Inside this method there will be one statement. And what is the statement? The statement will be super.onCreate. This will be the first statement inside the onCreate method. And some set content view method is also called here to load the UI. Set content view of r.layout. some main.xml. Whatever XML file you are having, activity_main, whatever. Okay, we are loading the UI. We are drawing the UI using this method. Now here we have to bring the XML button inside Java. That means we have to create one button object for the XML button. How to create? btn show is equal to bringing the XML button into Java means what? Create the button object. Create the button object for XML button. Already in XML we have one button which is having one ID button1, and here we have to call one method. The method is the find view by ID method. Find view by ID. And what is the ID of the button? The ID of the button is the button1. ID of the button is the button1. Now what happens whenever you specify any ID for any UI element? In r.java, one inner class will be created. In r.java, one inner class will be created automatically. You can see like this here. This is something happens in the r.java file. Public class r, final, public final class r, public final class r, and inside this r class one inner class will be created. Public static final class ID class will be created automatically, and in this ID class there will be one static variable created, public static final integer, and what will be the name of the variable button1, and is equal to, here there will be some reference of that button. There will be some reference of that button. So whenever we provide the ID attribute, automatically the r.java file creates one inner class, and inside this inner class one ID reference will be created. I want to access this variable. How to access this variable? This is the static variable of this class. So I should write id.button1, and this ID is the inner class of r class. So what I have to write here? I have to write r.id.button1. We have to write here r.id.button1. This is, I am writing here r.id.button1, and this method returns object of view type. This method returns object of view type. We have to typecast this to button. Here we have to typecast it to button. So what we are doing? We are creating the button object for XML button. This method find view by ID will find the view having this ID, and it returns one view, and that view object is converted to button type, and the reference of that button type is given to btn show. So here is the second step. Bring the XML button inside the Java. This is the way to create the button or bring the XML button into the Java. Okay, by finding the ID, by finding this ID, one view will be created, and the view is typecasted to button type, and it is referenced by btn show. Now number three step is tell your Java button, okay, who is responding when it is clicked. Who should respond when the button is clicked? Okay, here we are creating one button, but who should respond? Okay, here we have to tell who should respond when the button is clicked. Who should respond? This class should respond when the button is clicked. This is the guy who should listen the event. So we have to register here this button like this. That means what? Here this step means nothing but the register. Okay, here this step means what? Register the button with the class who implemented the on-click listener interface. Who is implementing the on-click listener? Main activity is implementing the on-click listener. So we have to register this object with this button. So I am writing here set on click listener method. Set on click listener bracket this. This means what? This means the instance of current class, and this class is already implementing the on click listener. Here I can provide object of any class which is implementing this listener. Okay, right now this class is implementing the listener, so I am writing here this. So here we are telling the Java button who should respond. This should respond. This means what? The main activity should respond. And how the main activity will respond? The main activity will call the method. Which method it will call? Okay, this is the step number 4. Step number 4. Okay, decide what should happen. Okay, what should happen when button is clicked. This is the thing we have to specify. What should happen when the button is clicked? That means what? Implement the on click method. Implement the on click method. Implement the on click method. How to implement the on click method? See here, I am implementing the on click method. This is my class. Okay, public class main activity, and here I want to implement the method. Okay, after this on create method, I want to implement. Here I can say implement the on click method. Implement means override. Implement means override. Here we have to write public void on click, which has one view type of parameter, and here we have to write something like what to do when the button is clicked. Code to execute when the button is clicked. This is the way we have to handle the click. How many steps are there? 4 steps are there. What are the 4 steps? First step is tell Android that you are interested in listening to a button click. How to tell? Create a class that implements the on click listener. You can create any class, okay, or otherwise you can implement the listener for the main activity also. Okay, create. First step, tell Android you are interested in listening the button click. Means what? Implement the listener. Implement the listener. Which listener? On click listener. There are so many listeners. What are the listeners? We will see. Second thing, bring your XML button inside the Java. What it means? It means create the button object for XML button. Okay, in Java, create the button object for XML button. How to create? Using the find view by ID method. Find view by ID method, which finds the view in XML having this ID. Now wherever in your layout XML file, doesn't matter how many layout XML you are using, there should be one view having this ID button 1. And what this method returns? The return type of this method is view, and the view is converted to button. And here this is the button type of object or not? This is a button type of instance variable who will refer to that button. Okay, what we have created in the XML. This is the second step. Next step, tell your Java button who is responding when it is clicked. When it is clicked, okay, who should respond? Okay, who should respond? The class which is implementing the on click listener. Register the button with the class who implemented the on click listener. Now who is implementing the on click listener? This class is implementing the on click listener. So we have to write this like, okay, we have to write this here. I am writing this example also here. This is the example. This is actually we are registering the button with the class who is implementing the on click listener interface. Now writing this is not enough. There should be one more step. What should happen? Okay, what should happen when the button is clicked? Okay, that means we have to implement the on click method for that class. Okay, so here is the class who is implementing the on click listener, and this is implementing or overriding the method on click. Okay, and here we can write the code which is executed when the button is clicked. So these are the 4 steps. Okay, I want to execute the same application. I will go for one example also, one practical example we will see. So here I open the Eclipse. I want to create here one new project, Android application project. The name of the project is the button click demo 1. Package name is the com.button click demo 1. Minimum required SDK is 4.1 Jelly Bean. This one is the KitKat. Click next, uncheck this option, click next, once again next, and then finish. So here we are creating one simple Android application. Now what is the requirement here? My requirement is I want to create one activity, and inside the activity I want to create one button. Suppose here you can see this is one button, this is one activity, and inside this activity here I want to create one button. And what is the name of the button? The name of the button is the click me. This is the name, this is the title or text of the button. This is the label of the button, click me. And when I click here, I want to see some toast message here. Okay, we will see what is the toast message. When I click this button, what is my requirement? I want to see some toast message here. I want to create some toast message here, and in toast message I want to write you clicked me. I want to write here you clicked me. This toast message should appear at the bottom of the screen. This is my requirement. So what is step 1? Create the UI. How I create the UI? Okay, let it create the project. Okay, we will create one XML file, and in this XML file we want to create one button. Rohit and Amol, are you listening now? Online members Rohit and Amol. Amol, up till now any question? Up till now any question? Okay, please write the important points at your level. I want to share these files also with you. Some notes file also I want to share with you. Here is this project. The project I am creating button click demo 1. In this project, first thing I want to open the XML file, and in that XML file I will create one button. We have to wait for some moment, actually some time. Here this is loading. Okay, it's taking some time to load. The orientation we want here, vertical orientation. Now this is one text view. In this text view I want to display some heading. Handle click event. This is my heading. Here we'll provide some text size also. Very big time it is taking today. I think I have to give it one restart. So here I want to set the text size is equal to some 20 dp. Now after this I want to create one button here. See it, I want to create here one button. This is my button. I want to set the width is equal to 150 dp. I want to set the height also. Wrap content. Text is equal to, I want something like click me. gravity, layout gravity is equal to center, and this is one simple button I am creating. Now here one important property we have to set for this button, and that property is the ID property. Android colon ID is equal to @ plus ID slash button1. This is the ID. Now I want to open the main activity. Open the main activity. The first step is to tell the Android that you are interested in listening to a button click. That means here we have to implement the listener. Here we have to write implements on click listener. We have to implement the on click listener. Now here once we implement the on click listener, I press here Control plus Shift plus O, okay, which will import the necessary class. First we want to tell the Android that you are interested in listening to the button click. Second thing, bring the XML button inside the Java. How to bring the button inside the Java? Here I am declaring one instance, button type of instance, btn click. This is the instance name, btn click. Here also it shows some error because the class is not imported. I press Ctrl plus Shift plus O to import the classes automatically. Now in this onCreate method, okay, in this onCreate method I want to perform the second step. The second step is the bring the XML button in Java. That means create the button object. How to create the button object? Btn click is equal to, we have to use this find view by ID method. Find view by ID r.id.button1, r.id.button1. But here this method returns a view. The return type of this method is the view. Okay, so we have to convert it to the button type. So here is the second step, creating the button. The third step is tell your Java button who should respond when it is clicked. Okay, I want this class to respond when the button is clicked. So we have to write btn click dot, the method name is the set on click listener. The method name is, we have to write here set on click listener, and you can see what is the argument of this method on click listener I. That means we have to write here the object. We have to write here the object who is implementing the on click listener. Okay, here this main activity class is implementing this on click listener, so I can write here instance of this current class. This is the third step. This is the third step. Here I want to write third step is the register the listener, okay, for the button. Okay, this is the listener. This means the current class who is implementing the on click listener. And the step number 4 is the override the method. How to override the method? Just click this option here and you can select add unimplemented method. See, this is one listener. Okay, this is one interface. Listener is nothing but one interface, and interface has abstract methods, and the class who is implementing the interface must override the methods, must implement the unimplemented methods. So click this button here, automatically it will create here one method, and this method is the on click method. Click this option, add unimplemented method, and here you should see this method public void on click, and here we have to write the method, we have to write the code. Now what is the code we want to write here? I want to write the code here, toast dot make text method, and in this make text method we have to write this context, get application context, means where you want to print the toast message, get application context. Okay, get application context means the reference to the current class. Okay, writing this or get application context is the same thing. What is the text you want? I want you clicked me. This is the text we want to display. How much time you want to display the text in the toast message? Some 5000 milliseconds. And show. This will show the toast message. Now here we are ready to run this application. Now right click to the project name, click on run as, and select this option, run as Android application. And here we want to test this application.